this lesson, I want to go over this idea that mixing colors is a lot more fluid and less regimented um, than you might think. Really the best way to learn about color is to try a lot of different combinations. In our first example, the example up here, what we did was we added black to get to our middle values and eventually our dark values. So it was just a percentage of black. In our previous lesson, what we did was we added a yellow-orange, and that probably accounts for why when you look at these swatches here, they tend to feel like it's shifting more on the oranger side. And then as we moved over to these sections here, we added more of the yellow ochre, which is a darker, duller yellow, and we added less of the yellow orange. And then as we moved going a little bit darker, we took basically actually we ended up doing mostly yellow ochre and then black. Now for our final kind of run through, I want to stress that color mixing and thinking through color is a little bit more fluid. So we started off with our yellow, and then we surmised that we could add some of the yellow orange, right? So as you can see, it's becoming more yellow orange. Maybe we added a little bit of the yellow ochre, right? So that's this part right here, right? But something that we didn't do early on is we didn't add black. So let me add a black right over here. Now there's no real rules to kind of mixing. I mean, I would say that a lot of the color is sort of fair game. And as you can see, now I'm mixing everything together to get this sort of ambiguous yellow. And let's see, now I don't know if this is going to work or not, but I think the lesson here is it's okay to experiment and to try, and if it fails, well then it fails. It's really no big deal. It's watercolor after all. It's not brain surgery. It's not medicine. So the only thing that'll get hurt is maybe your ego. So and that you can recover from. So here we go. So now this mixture is kind of an amalgam of 4 different colors: your yellow, yellow ochre, yellow orange, and the black. And this jump is actually way higher than I would like. So I prefer the jump from here to here to be a little bit more subtle. But because this is watercolor, there's no way to kind of go back in time. You're kind of committed to it. So as you can see, we're left with a kind of color that isn't so orange, right? But isn't so green as well. So there's definitely a range that you can play with. I may definitely need to boost up this layer because it's definitely getting darker here, but it's getting lighter here. So to fix that, you just need to go back in here and just add a couple of more layers. And when I'm out there kind of mixing, the mixtures, they're pretty fluid. I don't necessarily have this idea that I know the exact recipe for that specific color. Um, Most of the time, you're just kind of winging it. And of course, as I go darker, then I might lean more heavily on my yellow ochre and my black to kind of get it to that level of darkness. Now, as you can see, this is starting to shift really green. I can lay. So this feels really green to me. So something that you could also try is you can start adding a little bit of red to it. So maybe I'll add some of this red right here. Put this off to the side. Maybe draw a little bit of that color back in here so it doesn't shift so green. And maybe that's the color that I'll go with as I move towards my darker area. So, this stuff gets a little bit more nuanced, and really the only way to kind of get to this place in your color mixing is just to continue to experiment and to try different things. So I think a better analogy for mixing colors, I think it's really more like it's like cooking, but more like the chef who is not really so rigid and follows his recipe to the T, but is maybe someone who kind of freelances a little bit more. Because when you're mixing colors, there is a fair amount of freelancing that goes on. Like you might have a base color, and then you'll add other colors to kind of shift that color around. So